Okay, so here's what we're here to talk about. This is the Torque helmet, the Blade T12 model. This is one of the entry-level helmets in the market, and I recently had the opportunity to try it out and compare it to others in my experience. And I just want to provide some general feedback, and I'm going to use this as an example, not to review this helmet specifically, but provide a little education on helmets and some of the things you're looking for, especially on entry-level helmets. First, I'm going to point out that this rear spoiler is designed to provide aerodynamic stability on the helmet so that the air flowing over it doesn't have any turbulence. That keeps any buffeting or shaking of your head from happening, especially while riding behind a semi or something else, other large vehicles on the highway. If you look closely, there are rear ventilation ports located here and here on the back, and there are front vents which open and have partially open and a fully open setting, and they close easily. These can be used with gloves on. They are effortless. Some other helmets have little tiny, sliders on them. These things just, entire hand slides back over it, opens it up, closes it. Really easy to use with gloves on. The other thing I want to point out is there's a front vent located here. Again, really nice positive action, easy to open and close with gloves on. And this allows air in the front of the helmet, while these direct it through the channeled EPS foam liner. Now, the EPS foam is something you're going to hear about in a lot of beginner helmets. They're all going to tell you they have a state-of-the-art CAD-designed EPS foam liner. Well, what does that really mean? That's the question that I think a lot of people need an answer to. What that means is, this is your cheek padding, this is the EPS foam liner covered in a little bit of cloth material, and this is the outer shell of the helmet. This EPS foam liner, that's the only functional part of this helmet that protects your head. The outer shell is really there to kind of disperse the impact a little bit, and at the same time also keep the helmet from kind of deforming or grinding through that foam liner too fast. But that foam liner is what actually absorbs 95% of the impact, at least. So what you're looking for in a good helmet is a quality EPS liner. And what you don't know is that most beginner helmets are going to be made in just a handful of factories from just a couple different companies over in China or Thailand or Korea, Vietnam. So as it turns out, a lot of the beginner helmet designs actually have the same EPS foam liner technology on the inside. The variances that start, and I'm not saying this one is the same, I'm just talking in general, but the variances that start on these is when they start taking that EPS foam liner and putting little channels in it. And these channels go forward to backward, and they're like little grooves on the inside. And those channels are designed to allow airflow from your top vents to flow across the top of your head out the back of the helmet. Now those are beneficial because they allow for a lot better cooling, whereas some cheaper helmets, especially in the beginner kind of realm, they'll have a vent on the front, and there'll be a hole in the helmet right there to allow air in. That's it. And that hole will direct air down to your head through the foam liner, and then there's nothing. Whereas on something like this, that hole allows air in to one of those channels, so air contacts your head over a long surface area, and then it comes back out here. The purpose of the one on the back, in this case, is to provide kind of a suction almost from this rear spoiler, and that pulls air through and it helps the ventilation significantly. So first of all, it's important to have a helmet that actually has functional vents. Second, you want something that has a good channeled EPS foam liner in it. Now I say functional vents. What do I mean by that? Well, if you go out and you find one of those $39.95 specials that you can pick up on sale for $20 or $15 at your local Harley dealer, and I'm not ripping on Harley, I've just noticed a lot of the dealers in my area have carried some of the lower end helmets, questionable brands. Some of those, they have sporty styling and stuff because they don't really carry many full face helmets at my local dealers. And I've opened up some of these vents on them before and noticed that there's no hole in there. The vent is just a design piece on the helmet like that, and there'll be a little slit in here and you can't close it. Well, the reason you can't close those vents in some of those really cheap helmets is because there's no vent. There's no hole. It's just like a little graphic on the outside like this with a slit in it. There's no hole through this liner or through this shell. There's no hole in the liner. That is not a vent. So some really cheap helmets, you're not even getting a vent on them. You are dealing with an unvented helmet. Another thing you have to watch out for on really cheap helmet brands is quality of the hinges. Now, this has a very positive action to close. What's nice about that is that actually stops out a lot of air. every helmet is going to have a shield. They're going to have this nice rubber liner around the outside edge here. Well, if it doesn't close tightly against that, you're going to get air leaking in, you're going to get water leaking in, and over time, that's going to make the helmet a little bit noisier, it's going to get your face a little bit wet, it's harder to ride in the wintertime because that's leaking cold air in, and you don't want that. What you want is a helmet that has a nice positive closing action, and one that also opens in a positive spot and holds the shield there so that when you have it open, it'll stay there. And you want one with lots of detent positions. A detent position is essentially a click to where you can set the shield. And if you notice in this one, there's probably 20 or 25 detent positions, at least, maybe 30, between closed and open. And you can see those if you look. Well, I might show a picture of them. What you do is you look on the hinge on the side of the helmet, and in this one there's tons of these tiny little teeth along this little bar right here, and there's a divot on the shield that rides along those little teeth. Now, face shield removal on helmets, you want something easy, so if you want to change shields, you can. This one, that's how effortless it is. You literally pull down on this one little thing and it pops out. A lot of beginner helmets have these complex face shields where you have to remove them with some screws or something like that. They're getting better now, but you still want to look for something that you can do. I mean, look at that. I put it on one-handed. So you still want to look for a helmet with a quality face shield mechanism. That's something that you might want to look for. Beyond that, main features you should be looking for is a quality material on the inside of the helmet. This is a very soft, almost suede-like material. It's very comfortable. It's got a nice D-ring closure on it. It stays on very firmly. The padding material is soft and it conforms to your head. It has a chin bar here, which is suede, or that suede-like material on the inside and this mesh on the outside. This chin guard here is a really nice feature. Not all cheap helmets come with them. You can actually pick one up from almost any helmet and put it on yours. It'll fit. It slides in between the EPS foam liner and the outer shell of the helmet. What this chin bar here is for is that when your face is in here, your neck is blocking most of this area. This is coming up against the back of your neck, the sides, up near your face pretty close. This blocks out extra wind from getting up in near your chin. This makes a huge difference in how quiet a helmet is. I'd say this will reduce helmet noise by 50% alone. So some really cheap helmets don't have them, others do. A lot of them are going to have them. The question is how far they go. I've got an off-road helmet that has one of these, but there's such a large chin gap between my chin and the front of the helmet that the little thing, it's practically worthless. So one thing that you should try is make sure you've put your helmet on, tried it out, worn it around for a little bit. Make sure it's not putting too much pressure on you in the right places, in the wrong places. Make sure that it fits very firmly but not overly tight to give you headaches. When you try on a helmet, you should be getting a bit of pressure here and here. This is on your cheek and this is up near your temple. Same thing on the other side. You also want to feel it on the back of your head. If you pull the helmet forward right here on the chin bar, you should feel it on the back of your head. So it should contact your head in the back, on the top, in the forehead, on the sides, the cheek pads. And when you grab the helmet by the chin bar and rotate side to side like this, you should see it deforming the skin on your face in a mirror. It should be firm enough to move your cheeks around, but not be tight and uncomfortable. It should feel pleasant. Now, if you've never worn a full face helmet before, it's going to feel a little weird the first time. So my suggestion is wear it for 10 or 15 minutes before you make any judgment on the helmet itself. It's one of those things that you kind of have to get used to. But once you've got used to it, it is an amazing difference in comfort.